Hi everybody. Wait till everyone. I'm not gonna wait till everyone gets here. I never wait till everyone gets here. Lighting's a little off, but we're gonna go for it. So this video is about how to defeat your migraines. Now, I started having migraines in 2013 when I entered nursing school. If you, I know a great majority of the population didn't go through nursing school, but if you have gone through any kind of um, intensive kind of vocational training like that, especially medicine, then you understand what I mean. And it's not surprising. So I'm so glad to finally do this video. I waited to do this video for a long time until it felt right. And I finally feel like it's the right time because I've gotten on top of it. And my migraines, it's hard to even call them migraines anymore. Um, I, I feel like I've just defeated them. And because it was a slow process of waning down, once I found a kind of cure, a way to tackle it, um, it did take, uh, if I'm going to be quite honest, it took about a year for the mic because they kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller and less and less and less frequent until now where I feel pretty safe. I feel pretty migraine safe now, and that feels amazing. At its height, hey Soko, how's it going? I'm doing okay today. Uh, at its height, at its worst, I was having 3 to 4 migraines a week that would last, at its worst, 36 hours long each. And I know that sounds insane, like, oh, you only had like a half a day to recuperate and another half a day before they develop again. Yes, that's how bad it got. It was not that consistent over this last 10-year period. Oh, thanks, Soko. They're saying I look good, so Death Rush, I don't recognize you, but welcome. Welcome to the live into the channel. We're just gonna hop right in on how I was able to do that. Um, the very first thing I'm gonna say is not may not be an option for everybody, and so you can tell me to F off. But and it's really quick, is just that if you are a smoker of any kind, of any kind of smoke, it can be tobacco or non-herb, cannabis, whatever it is, if at least during this period while you are trying to heal your migraines, make your house smoke free. Now, I don't care if you grew up in a smoking environment. When for If you're trying to defeat your migraines, try it. Try it that day, that very day that you're trying to defeat your first migraine. Air out the house and stop smoking in it. And it only takes, turn on some ceiling fans in the window. It was open for like 5 minutes, like a couple of strategic windows, just to get the majority out, and then close them again if it's cold or whatever. But try it, and I'm telling you, you will notice a huge difference in that migraine that you're trying to defeat right there at that time, in breathing in fresh air. And this sounds very simple. If it's just during this period while you're having your migraine, then once it's over, go back negative. I went cold turkey. I decided, that was the first thing I did. It was the first thing that I noticed, too, somehow, was it clicked, was that because I was using, at that time, I was using cannabis to help with my symptoms of my migraine. And then I would like step outside because I had to let my dog out, and I came back in and I would notice how smoky it was in the house. Excuse me. And that was my first experiment and that's when I aired it out. And that first migraine that I did, that was easier, and I got over it quicker, and it wasn't as intense. So that's the first thing I want to encourage you to do. If you can go cold turkey, no smoke in the house, just stop smoking in the house all the time. Obviously, that would be best. That really also helped decrease my smoking at the time significantly, just because every time I had to smoke, I had to step outside. So there was no sitting at the computer chain smoking, none of that. And so if you're trying to cut back at all, it might help you with that. But that's my first tip. Very first tip is don't smoke in the house. Okay, so now we're gonna go on to everyone else, smoker or non-smoker. Um, excuse me. Now I have like a tickle in my throat. um, oh, people are saying they miss their cigars. They used to smoke. That they stopped 10 years ago. Oh, cool! Because of the gym. That's cool. So anyway, we're going to go on. This is my very next tip is if you get chronic headaches or migraines, then you know when it's starting to come on. You're starting to catch it. And if you don't start paying attention, but usually I think it's pretty common, even in medical literature, just usually migraine getters will know when it's coming on. And if you start to pay attention, you'll start to catch it sooner and sooner and sooner. And so my tip to you is once that migraine comes, I mean, you're already sacrificing all of those hours in pain. And if you have nausea, and I mean, I would just be like literally sometimes just rocking and moaning, and then I would just cry like for hours on end because I was in so much pain. And so instead of using those hours in pain, just go ahead and commit those hours now. Commit those hours now, and start acting as if you have a migraine. And I know that sounds funny. You don't have to act like, I'm not saying act like you're in pain, but all of your migraine treatment kind of things that you do, where you turn the lights down low, where you turn the noise off or turn the noise down low, um, and then you rest. Start doing that immediately. Immediately, as soon as you're like, I feel like it's going to start coming on. It's going to be hard not to get a migraine today. Or not. I'm telling you, start doing it then, right then. Turn all the lights down and rest, man. Rest, even if it's just sitting there in silence like a zombie. Uh, you this works. Treat your migraine as soon as you feel like it's a risk. And you're like, well, I'm just going to waste time just sitting there. Well, you can either sit there in comfort and rest, or you can wait until the pain comes, and then you can sit there in pain. And so I stopped worrying about wasting time, and I started just committing it immediately. Okay, I feel like I'm going to get a migraine, so today is migraine care day immediately. I wake up and it's low stimulation in the house, and sometimes I would just, and you'll get tired. I would just sit there, and I'll just sit there in the silence with my eyes kind of half closed, kind of like trying to soothe myself, and I'll just do that for hours. But then you know what? After hours, I feel like that risk is gone. And even if it takes the whole day, at least I spent that. And by the end of that day, I'm calm and I'm not in pain and I do not have nausea. And instead of spending 24 hours in with pain and nausea, I just spent it in rest and in silence and as much as possible and with as little stimulation as possible. And so that's my second tip is just already act like you have a migraine. And so what you're doing is you're just treating it earlier. You're not waiting till the pain comes. You're listening to your trigger warning and and you're just treating it immediately. And just like when the migraine does come, you start to treat it. Eventually, it goes away. It's just you're just moving that treatment to the earlier part of it, so it never gets to that intensity. You start treating it immediately, and I'm telling you, this worked so much. Don't push through it. Do not push through your headaches and your migraine warnings. Don't push through it like, oh, I'm just not. I have to do this stuff. I have to wash dishes. I have to. If you can, just go ahead and act like you're treating your migraine immediately. And this really helps so much. Now, the next thing is, okay, well, how do I do that? How do I treat my migraine? Is you can't really tell that the camera does pick it up, but all of the lamps, I mean, they're so bright in the camera. It's hard to look at them right now. I'm kind of treating a migraine right now, which is kind of what inspired me to make this. Now, I'm not going to get one. I know I'm not going to get one, but I'm starting my period tonight, um, and that's my last trigger now. The only trigger I kind of worry about now is, okay, because I used to get a headache when I would have a period. And then when I started getting migraines, all headaches went immediately to migraines, and so I'm just taking precautions right now because I know I'm going to start my period. And I'm treating myself as if I'm preventing a migraine, but I put scarves, or sometimes I'll put even like a sock hat. I have one here somewhere, like right here. And it's nice too if they're kind of, you can't see through this, but you can kind of see through it in real life. And I would douse all the lights. And like I said, the camera's picking it up much brighter than it actually is in my house right now. It's actually very low lit right now, like a really soft glow all throughout the house. I don't have any bright things on. Every single lamp is covered in some kind of headscarf. And it casts nice little colorful glows and shadows. Um, and like earlier, like I just wanted to listen to some things that had been silent for a long time, and so I put on a podcast while I was folding clothes gently, and the podcast was so low. It was turn it all the way down till you can't hear exactly what the words are, and then like up just a little bit, and you'll be surprised how sensitive your hearing really is, and how you can still hear it at such a low volume. Uh, um, anyway, just because that input, you want to stop the input of energy into this part of your body, and so that's what all of these low stimulatory actions are doing, is they're stopping the input of energy into your head, which is, the nerves of which are now very swollen, which is what's causing you sometimes to get a migraine. Now, and then the other one is rest, and feel lazy, feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing anything. But know this is such an important treatment for migraines, because your migraine is energy overload, uh, at some level. And so cut off all the energy overloads if you can, the energy inputs. And when you rest, there's another thing. When you rest, sleep with your head elevated above your heart. Um, so if you want to lay on a couch or on a chair, like a recliner, or if you can prop a bunch of pillows up on your bed so that you're just kind of reclining. Um, excuse me, gosh, I don't have a cold. I just have this tickle now because I haven't been talking all day. Um, but do that. Go ahead and is elevate your head, and all that does is it allows the extra fluid that's in your veins, which is the fluid that goes back to your heart, that's not being pumped up to your head, and just allows that to continue to flow downward, instead of when you lay flat, all of that fluid still will just be in there. And these are just all little tricks that help decrease the pressure inside of your head. um, Now this next one is going to sound kind of funny because you're going to feel really stupid. But sometimes, because I'll feel it right here, back at that like dip at the bottom of your head, it's called your occipital lobe. Um, I'll feel it real tense there too. When I get migraines, mine start here and they come around to the side usually. And so when you're sitting, even though you're sitting up, sometimes it feels really good to allow your head to just rock back like this, like this. This sounds funny, and just let it rest there. And you can put pillows there, but and all that also allows the jaw. It forces it to open and relax so that you're not clenching anything because of the pain. And so rest with your head elevated above your heart so that you have that drainage, natural drainage going, decreasing the pressure, and then relaxing that there. And a lot of migraine people get tension at the top of their neck here, in that low part of their head, and that helps release and yeah, release that tension. And you're going to feel kind of like an old person who falls to sleep on their chair, but it does feel good. Um, Another thing that I do is my head feels better. My head feels more soothed when I place my hands on the part of my head where my migraine is. And for me, that's this part of my head, usually. And sometimes if I'm not laying like this, I'll just kind of lay over onto the pillows like this, and I'll just kind of do this to my head and I'll fall asleep like that. Um, I don't know if this is just a me thing, uh, but please try it. I have noticed that I mean, sometimes it helps better than ice packs. I have uh, ice packs. I try to use them and they're somewhat helpful. But what really feels even better is a cold rag, a cold, wet rag. Uh, and I'm not sure if this is just because it can form to your head and you can like press it, like this, where you can't really do anything with an ice pack. It just feels freezing, but only in certain spots, and it can't really form to your head very well. And once you're pressing your head a lot, like with an ice pack or with your hand, your skin gets really dry, and anything that irritates you will irritate you even more with a migraine. And so having that moisture there feels good, like cold, wet rag moisture, and you can like press the rag against you, like where you need it to. And I just I do that. I'll just go back and forth. And it's also just sensory distraction, where you're feeling coolness and wetness on these areas where the pain is. And it's just, all of these things will just help you get through it. Okay. And those work more when you already have pain. But it still helps. Those are simple things probably a lot of migraine people already know about. But so sleep with your head elevated, and if you want some kind of distraction and your hands aren't working, then a cold wet rag I think works better than an ice pack. Um, oh, okay. So during this time, if you get nausea with your migraines, and I'm sure it's possible, but I can't imagine anyone who gets migraines saying, "Oh, but I don't have nausea with them." To me, it seems uh, they just go hand in hand. And so I would advise you, as soon as you feel that migraine trigger, like it's possible that you might get a migraine later on, and so you immediately go into migraine treatment mode. Don't push through it. Don't wait. Immediately go into migraine treatment mode, and before the pain really sets on. And part of that is to start eating tummy safe foods immediately. And especially if you do feel like you're not going to be able to feed it, that you're just trying to lower the intensity that it becomes, because you're like, oh, it's too late. I know I'm going to get one, but all I can do now is try to just make it as less intense as possible. Is start eating tummy safe foods immediately. And if your nausea has not set in, start doing that immediately. Eat food uh, um, before you get nauseous, okay? Because what you do not want to happen is migraines last a long time, and if you haven't eaten and then you get a migraine and you can't eat because you're nauseous, then you get a headache from not having eaten, and that just makes it worse. And so, even and once your nausea starts, don't worry about forcing food down, obviously, but start eating tummy safe foods that aren't going to trigger nausea. And for me, that is stuff like ramen noodles. I find is actually really, really tummy safe and feels good. And sipping the broth feels really good. Um, and um, I went through a huge saltines phase. Now I like tortilla chips, but that's because I'm kind of through the vomiting. Like that's how, like, I got past, like, I don't really worry about vomiting anymore, which is amazing to say, because that's what I would always do during migraines for years and years and years. Because no one wants to puke up tortilla chips, right? And the reason why you want to eat bland foods too is not just because you don't want to set off your nausea, but you want to eat and consume things that are going to be as pleasant as possible coming back out of your mouth when you vomit, okay? And so things like saltines and Sprite, man, they are not going to be unpleasant when you vomit. It's going to be easy. It's going to be smooth. It's not going to be this like horrifying vomit taste that just lingers in your mouth, which you feel even worse. I mean, not worse. And so those are I would just live off saltines and Sprite for hours when I had migraines before. But what I like now is, like I said, is tortilla chips. They are a little heavier than the saltines. Just still make sure that if you're eating tortilla chips, that you're nibbling and that you're chewing them up very well, um, just to help your stomach with digestion. So it doesn't have to work as hard, and so that in case you do get nausea and vomiting, that again, it's easy when it comes up and it doesn't feel uncomfortable. Um, and again, ramen, not crazy ramen. I'm talking like chicken flavor, or I do the soy sauce flavor because that's the accidentally vegan kind. Uh, and that seems to be really easy coming up too. It doesn't have hardly any flavor. And anyway, um, so find out what yours are, what your tummy safe foods are, and as soon as you go into migraine treatment mode, before the pain sets on, if you can, just start filling yourself with food, these tummy safe foods, um, and because kind of like when you're pregnant, if your tummy is empty, it's going to be more vulnerable to nausea anyway, and then if you do end up having a long migraine, despite all these measures, because you're like in the earlier phases of trying to work on getting your migraines gone, then you'll have food in your stomach that will last, and so the chances of getting a food headache on top of your migraine are a lot less, are a lot smaller. So anyway, that's what. Oh, and then as far as meds, I mean, I have tried so many different things. I've tried Aleve, and ibuprofen and Tylenol, and I honestly get the the most benefit from Tylenol, even though it is the gentlest of those medications. And maybe that's why. And I think I've talked to other migraine havers who, once it's past a certain point, you can't take any medicine because it's going to make your mind, it's not going to stay down. That's the point. Especially those strong ones like Aleve, they're not going to stay down. I find that opioids of any kind do not affect migraines. But NSAIDs did kind of help, but again, they were just a little too nausea inducing. But Tylenol you can take more frequently. Just make sure you're not going over your dose for your weight, and they're so gentle. They're so gentle on your body and on your stomach, and they're just for pain. They're not going to mess with you in any other way, whereas NSAIDs do other things. Um, and so they are just a little stronger, a little harsher. I mean, they're NSAIDs, but still they're a little harsher. And Tylenol is just so gentle. And so I find, and that's another thing, as soon as you feel like, oh, I have an aura that I'm going to have to work on a migraine today, as soon as you do, eat something, take 2 Tylenol, and stay on that. When you can have your next dose, take another 2 Tylenol. As long as you're not nauseous, try to stay ahead of it. And I know it sounds like, oh gosh, I get migraines, like Tylenol is going to help. I'm just saying that I've really found that that's the most effective, because the other ones set off my nausea. And then you can't take, once you're nauseous, you can't take medicine. Don't try. You're going to vomit. And then once you start vomiting, then you're in the cycle of vomiting. So, but I mean, everyone's a little different. You might find that it's different, but I find that Tylenol really is the safest. Gosh, I'm getting hot. Okay. Uh, so the last one, um, if you're under 18, or if you're not comfortable talking about sex, please exit now. Okay. But I'm gonna get a little real with you guys, and I'm only sharing this because it works. I'm sharing this because it works. But I would go through a cycle when I was treating my migraines, where I'm just trying to ameliorate the pain, and I was talking about the cold rag. Sometimes it's just a distraction. But if you're in your migraine cycle and you're having it and you're just trying to treat it, and you can't sleep because of it, like I would have migraines. People are like, I try to sleep. My migraines, I could not sleep through for the longest time. It's like, are you kidding? The pain's too bad. But I'm telling you, this works. Is the simplest thing is to masturbate. Okay. Um, when you have an orgasm, it's probably one of the only sensations that is going to cut through that migraine pain. and it's going to give you some form of relief, even if you don't get rid of all the tension, and even if it's just temporary. If you have migraines, any kind of relief is so welcome. Okay. uh, but uh, and then also, man, nothing relieves stress in your body. And I'm not just saying this like a woo-woo person. It is medically proven, when you orgasm, when you pleasure yourself, you release tension and cortisol in your body. You know, it is good for your body. And so I would go through this cycle where I would wake up, and then I would, oh, I didn't talk about this other thing. But then I would do this other thing I'm going to talk about, and then I would masturbate, and then I would go to sleep. And that would be a cycle. And I'm telling you, it works. And I would just do that over and over and over again until my migraine was gone. And man, and if you don't know, if you're like, I can't masturbate that often, or I don't know how to do that, um, you know, I'm going to assume that you're a female, because females are not taught that this is normal. Females can masturbate. If you don't know that, you can. Okay, you can masturbate. And so don't be shy. Take time when you're not having a migraine and figure out how to do that. Don't, and if you have no idea, just look it up on the internet. Go to an educational source. Okay, don't like watch porn videos. Porn videos are not going to teach you how to pleasure yourself, especially as a woman. Okay, because they're not showing, they're just showing you the outside pretended effect. They're not showing you what's going on in there. Okay, so go to an educational source and figure out how to pleasure yourself, and just mess around and see what works for you. If you know, is natural. And I'm telling you, if you want a natural way to treat your migraines, figure out how to masturbate. Now, I'm sure there's dudes who, it's possible, who don't know how to do that. So again, the same message goes to you. But usually for dudes, it's a little more obvious. It is harder. You know, our organs are inside, or they're covered. This is my clitoral hood. They're covered, and so um, it's not as instinctual sometimes for girls. And so just figure out and learn about yourself. You know, and I'm telling you, this works. This will give you relief, and it will help you go to sleep, so that you can, because sleep is healing, and then you won't have to feel the migraine pain. Okay. Um, and then that leads me to my next thing is let's see, we got comments going over here. I need to feel more refreshed if I sleep or relax, and getting off help. Okay, these are just like comments, like as I'm going, people are just like throwing in there. All right, cool. All right, hey, what's going, Dave? Welcome, join in our masturbation talk to help treat migraines. So the last thing is, this is something that I just recently discovered. This is not going to help you with body tension. It does not. I find that only THC helps with body tension for me. But this is something. It's called THC Zero. It's like some new cannabis product that doesn't have THC in it, so it does not get you high. And I'm telling you, as a person who has gotten high, uh, and who enjoys THC, that this is not going to get you high at all. All right. So it really works, that you don't even notice it. But this, better than anything else, takes away migraine pain and nausea like within minutes. And I mean, you don't feel like you want to go run a marathon, but you feel like you can sleep. You know, you're like, oh my gosh, I think it's working. And it looks like this. It's a vape pen. It's really easy to use. There are instructions on here. This is disposable. I just got this at a gas station, and I am in a state that is not THC friendly. So I'm in Indiana, and we're really behind the curve on this kind of stuff. So, but I would encourage you to try this. Like, I was amazed. I was amazed at how quickly and seamlessly this works. And so what I would do when I'm going through this cycle, my cycle, is I would wake up, of course, with my migraine raging during my migraine phases, and I would take a hit of this, and then I would, because this takes away nausea too, and then I would nibble, even if it's on like a quarter of a saltine. I would nibble on the saltine, take a sip of Sprite, and then I would masturbate and go back to sleep. And you want to continually, if you can, um, feed little bits of calories in you. It's so important. And I go with Sprite because it's tummy safe and there's sugar. And so with the carbs and the sugar from the Sprite, you're at least giving your body something. And that's going to keep you, just like when you're sick, like you're going to feel worse if you're not eating. And so, even if it's that little bit, just nibbles on the saltine, a little sip. Do not go overboard, especially when you're nauseous. And then, and then masturbate, and then go to sleep. Okay, and try this. Try that cycle. I'm telling you, it works. Okay, it's power. I only use what works. Okay. And so now when I'm doing my headache prevention, when I say that, like, you feel it coming on, and but yet you don't have pain or nausea yet, then of course I don't do this, and of course I'm not masturbating all day. Even though, I mean, if that's your thing, man, do it. But I'm just resting during those days. I'm just taking those days to rest, because regardless of what your migraine is from, that's essentially what your body needs, is you need rest. And so you might as well spend those hours now without pain. Um, then, and so don't feel bad about the time that you're using to rest. Please, please rest uh, um, before it hits. And I think I got it all. Gosh, that really, oh, it was 30 minutes, kind of a long time. Um, hit Little Sprite, rub one out. Yes, that he's taking notes. I mean, I suggested in another video for PTSD, I suggested sex. I don't know if I would suggest that for a migraine. Um, it's too much movement. um, but the last thing I will say, just because we've already talked about sex, okay, and we're all adults here. Like I said, if you're 18 and under, or if you're under 18, just skip out. But if you don't know how to pleasure yourself, or if that's not working, because for some reason you can't get a big enough orgasm from masturbation, if you are a person whose role in sex, how can I put this? Okay, so there's the receiver and there's the inserter. If you're a person who receives an inserter, then oral sex might help. Now, I'm not talking about the oral sex that like you're winning an award for and you're doing all the work. Don't do that. That's terrible. I'm talking about if your partner can pleasure you through oral sex, where you can lay there and relax. Okay, and the reason why is because I tried this, and it relaxes all of the muscles in your head, and it feels good. So again, if you're like, how do you do that, do some research. Okay, if you want a really good source and you're a book person, um, buy the book Everything Your Mother Never Told You About Sex. This is written by both a gynecologist and a sex therapist. And as a person with like an Asperger profile of autism, um, this was educational. It's very straightforward. There are black and white, like, and it just goes through everything. And it's not porny at all. It's sex, and you don't have to read the whole book. Just, my connection's unstable. I want to make sure everyone gets this. Okay, we're back. Anyway, you don't have to read the whole book. You can just skip to the parts that you're interested in. But I'm telling you, I need to buy this book again. I've lost it over the years, and I've given it to people. I just believe in this book so much. Like, why can we just have this in school instead of, like, health education videos? Because it. I think everyone would benefit from having a better sex life, and I would be we can do that by just educating ourselves about how our body. Um, yeah, so I think that's good. Everyone's just giving me little fist bumps and stuff. You still abstaining from green? Yeah, man. I'm actually really proud of myself. I have been officially THC free probably for a good 4 or 5 weeks now. Um, uh, and that's really not by preference. I was kind of forced into that just because I just can't afford it right now. And so I don't have access to it either. Um, and so like with I can do another video on THC withdrawal. It is real. If it's probably not if you're just like a recreational smoker, but if you were using it to treat things like anxiety and PTSD and body tension and headaches and nausea and stuff, and so you were using it frequently, like anything, your body can withdraw from anything. Your body can withdraw from sugar. THC withdrawal sucks too. But anyway, I got through that. And it's not like withdrawing from heroin. You're not going to die from withdrawing from THC. Uh, but anyway, yeah. So I am THC free, and I'm at a point. I can't believe it. I'm at a point now where I'm just like living, and I'm doing okay, and I don't have any THC, and so I'm just. Even though I've been tempted a couple times to try to get a hold of it. I haven't, and I'm just gonna kind of ride this out, and um, I just can't believe that I'm actually here, that I'm actually like living and I'm doing good and I'm not smoking. Uh, I wow. I didn't think it would happen this soon, quite honestly. But anyway, so yeah, I'm THC free now. But again, I someday I'll do a video about THC and how much it really benefited me and helped me and changed my life and really helped me get through a lot of really tough stuff, both physically and mentally. And anyway, there was one thing I wanted to say. It was in my mind when I was talking about how I'm no longer smoking. Oh, I forget. Um, do I have a PO box? I don't. I don't have a PO box. I thought frequently about getting one, but I just didn't think that anyone would want to use it, I guess. But I should consider that sometime soon about getting one. So, because I know I'm going to think of it as soon as I get off this video. There's one last thing I wanted to say about migraines. I don't know. It has taken me a whole year to get to this spot. I officially started last early spring around this time, March, April, where I just focused on my migraines. Oh, and that was the other thing. There it was, is that, but anyway, first, so give yourself time, because if you, it's, I found that it was like anything else that is going at a large speed. It has to wind down, and but they just, once I started implementing all these things and finding all these things, they just kept getting better and better and better, like I said, and less frequent. And now I don't live in constant fear of a migraine anymore. But I'm still doing these things, every now and then. If I feel like that there's possibility for a headache, I'll eat something tummy safe. I'll take some Tylenol, and I'll cut off all the sensory inputs, and I'll relax, for a while. Just relax with your dog. If you have like a quiet place outside, go and just sit outside and just relax. Man, you deserve it as a human. Humans, you don't have to work all day. Who said that was our purpose? And you probably have migraines because pushing yourself too hard on some level. Oh, that was my last thing about migraines, is that I've really been able to let go of a lot of stress and trauma, and especially rage over that trauma in the last year as well. And that that really has helped, I think, too. That's really, really helped bring my overall median stress level down, and therefore my overall median like migraine level down. And so however it is that you can tackle that, whether it's just by like journaling, and these things all sound cliche, or if, I don't know, it's those kind of things are really personal, or just finding some way to feel that and let that out. You know, if you have rage, do not feel bad about it. You most likely have rage for a very understandable reason, and it's never been that you were never able to express, and you need to express that. You need to let it out. um, I would not recommend getting violent. Don't do that. But as just far as like feeling the feelings of rage in your body, and it sucks when you're doing it. um, uh, but just allowing yourself to do that, you know, and cry and rock, and you know, and let that out. And it's just know that you're not a terrible person. You're not a monster. You know, babies aren't born with rage. You know, it's a response to other things that happen to you. You know, and so, and it's a healthy thing to let go of. You know, when you bed down that rage, um, that's when your anxiety and your migraines get worse, and your chronic illnesses get worse, and all that. You need to release that. So anyway, I'm just trying to give you like self-esteem. Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad about it. Um, if that's an issue. But I found that when I started dealing with my trauma, and finding ways to heal it, uh, and maybe I should do another video on that sometime. Let's go over here. Do I suffer with endometriosis? No, thank God I do not. Um, no, and you can ask that. That's fine. Um, do you think that abstaining has negatively or positively affected your creativity or output? No, I don't. I assume you mean abstaining from like flower, from cannabis. I really don't. Um, there are other things that affect my creativity and output. That weed or cannabis or THC never, when those things helped, it wasn't that they made me more creative. It was that they helped me deal with other things that were stopping me from being creative. You know, like some people lots of people will use different things. Some people drink wine or whatever to help lose that inhibition. And a lot of those inhibitions have to do with stress, have to do with internal issues that you have that you can't get past because you can't, you know, that you can't release, and things. And I always maintained that I was creative before I started using THC heavily, and that I could still be creative without it, and that during my time when I was smoking, that I was creative both when I was smoking and when I was not. And now that I've like really stopped, even though I didn't plan on it, I'm still immensely creative, and I'm creating all the time now. Again, a lot of those issues I think just have with me being able to resolve a lot of personal stuff that was stopping me, you know, and I can focus better now. And that before, weed would help me focus, you know, but there are lots of things that keep you from focusing. And that's what I mean. I should really do a video, but I don't want to, because again, I don't want to incriminate myself accidentally. Like, I feel safe talking about it right now because I'm not smoking, you know, so I don't have anything to be afraid of. But uh, when you're using something as a medicine, it's not like it is when you use it recreationally. You know, it's just like people who use Xanax to treat panic attacks don't look like zombies like the people who use Xanax recreationally, you know. It's the same thing with cannabis. It's the same thing. You know, I wasn't partying and playing video games and stuff. And it really, it's not like it was a choice. It just affects you differently because it has medicinal properties, and I was using it medicinally. So that's a really good question. I hope I answered that well, and I hope that that answered your question. Soko says don't. I don't know what he just said that for. But. Okay, guys, it's been 45 minutes. So yeah, I hope this helps. And I'm really sweaty now because my anxiety's starting to go because I'm talking to a bunch of people and getting really excited. So I'm going to go back to my calm zone Um, and um, and I hope this helps people. So thanks for tuning in. All right, bye.